evening, everyone. Welcome. Thank you all for being here. I'd like to call our regular meeting of our Town Plan and Zoning Commission to order. Today is Monday, July 7th. It is 6:33 p.m. My name is Robert Klee. I'm the chair of our Woodbridge Town Planning and Zoning Commission. Other members who are with us here tonight are Ben Cherry and Andrew Skolnick, and our TBC alternates, Kathy Hunter and Bob Wisnia. Chris Sullivan, as always, ably supports us. She's our town land use analyst and zoning enforcement officer. Nice to see everyone on a mid-summer. Hopefully everyone had a nice July 4th holiday. Our agenda tonight has been available on the town website. I want to note at the beginning that the public hearing on Angelo Malisi's 804 Fountain Street development has been continued by request of the applicant to Tuesday, September 2nd, 2025, starting at 6:30 p.m. So today we have some new business, which is the receipt of the Luciani Properties LLC 114 Luciani Street application for a special permit for excavation removal, filling, grading, and processing of earth products. Then we'll have our work session where we can chat briefly on the updates on plan of conservation development and have our normal other updates that we have in our work session. We did receive some correspondence, which everyone should have received, regarding a solar project at 16 Soundview Drive in Woodbridge. And then we have some minutes to approve and other housekeeping at the end. So unless there's any other, Chris, no changes or other additions?
No.
We go right into our new business. So folks should have just received at their seat this request. Actually, what are we're seeking an extension of their excavation permit, or?
Yeah, I don't quite
It's not an
understand either.
extension. This is a new application for, I don't know what says extension. And it should say 114 Luciani
Instead of 110, which is on
instead of
both
110.
letter and it's on the topo survey.
So, I don't know. So this is an application for one, I don't know why it's shown, well, maybe that, no, this should be 114 as it's on the map. I'll have to have them correct it. Because 110 should be next to 108. So the surveyor appears to have mislabeled the plan.
But
We can get that straightened out.
it looks like the parcel next to 108 is not labeled. The one
Yes.
next to it is labeled 110.
10, yes.
And if that 110 should be 114.
That is
because it's close.
114, so apparently all this excavation work under the special exception permit for 110 has been completed, and this application is for 114, which is shown on the plan that you received as 110 Luciani.
Including the removal of the materials that he had been promising to remove
The
in
material
March,
that needs
April,
to
and
be
May.
removed, to the best of my knowledge, would be now solely from 114.
even though it's deposited in 110?
Or nothing more is 110's.
110 is currently operating under the building permit for 110. So there may be some material that is moved from there, but it is limited in quantity to what it can be under your zoning regulations
For
Okay.
typical,
for a typical house.
building permit.
For a typical house construction.
yeah.
And it's based on the acreage of the lot, so.
Gotcha.
So we're still receiving.
It needs to be scheduled for a public hearing.
Sure.
You obviously have a very large public hearing coming up at your regular meeting on September 2nd, which is a Tuesday because of Labor Day. So I don't know, you need to start a public hearing within 65 days of when you receive an application, so I don't know what the commission's pleasure is in terms of scheduling.
you could say we have not received the application. We got an application for 110.
Yeah, but the documents are mislaid.
The way the statutes are written, anything that looks like an application or could be an application, you need to
Treat as if we're
treat
an
as an application. Otherwise, it automatically, if you don't act on it in a timely fashion, becomes approved.
Although they are literally
No, I
saying
understand. Yeah.
110 instead of 114.
So is that the reason why it's a new application and not an extension? Because it's two different sites that they're dealing with?
It's a new application because it's two different sites, and the work under 110 has, according to the property owner, been completed as far as it's required under an excavation permit. It now is falling solely under the building permit.
I was under the misapprehension that this entire time the excavation had been going on both 110 and 114.
It had been, and they were at one point combined into one parcel. They have now been filed as two parcels, 110 and 114, which they originally were.
And that's why we're treating this application for 114 as a new application instead of an extension of the combined 110 and 114?
Well, and they'd already had an extension of
Right.
the original one, so they,
Which
that
ended
that
in May.
expired May 1st. So
Yeah.
in any event, they
It would
needed
have
to
to be a
come
new
back
one.
for a new
Yeah.
application.
So I think we do have to treat it as an application. The question is, do we tack it on at the end of our September meeting or schedule them for our October meeting, which would that not be
No,
within the
that-
six?
that wouldn't
That's
be
not within
65 days.
65.
Oh, that's right, 'cause we don't have an August meeting.
That would be like 80-something days.
Yeah, so,
It just seems that there are errors in this. I don't know how they've given it to us, but the numbers don't correlate. It's the address and everything. And something is not right about it.
Was there a separate document that I missed? Maybe it was supplied in hard copy that's the actual application for the extension?
This is what was supplied,
This,
so just this cover letter.
the letter and then
And,
the,
I see. It doesn't, I mean, the letter doesn't say that, it says regarding an excavation permit extension, but we've agreed it's not an extension and it's not for 110 Luciana Road. It's just bizarrely,
Could we have
Inadequate.
in August meeting, notwithstanding the tradition, instead of having to have a special meeting in September to handle this?
it's up to you.
I don't know what everybody feels about that. Because it doesn't seem practical that what's on the agenda for September would allow any time for anything else.
Has anybody actually gone out to check whether or not the 110 actually was completed as stated?
I'm sorry, to go out to check.
Because you were saying that the 110 lot was completed.
They've been doing the foundation work on
Right.
110.
And so has anybody actually verified that that is in fact set? And
It's had building, I would have to check to see if the building inspector's been out, but they've been
Right.
doing work to create the foundation for the house on 110.
right, because I would think there'd be, a certain demarcation as to when you could actually say that that is complete enough to go to a different type of application, and so whether or not that was verified by the building
He
official.
wouldn't verify that because that's not in his purview, because that's a permit that you issue. So they have been removing nothing from 110. They've only been preparing a foundation, to the best of my knowledge.
Yeah, I just was wondering if anybody had the knowledge that that in fact was done.
I am certainly not an expert to be able to tell you that it's completed or not.
We haven't heard from the neighbors. Is that accurate?
I'm sorry?
We haven't heard anything recently from the neighbors?
One of the neighbors was gonna submit something for this evening, and I said, there's no hearing yet, so take your time, because she was rushing to get something into you, and I said, it's okay, you know, we've got a little bit of time on this. So, if you want, I can have him correct the documents, whatever you choose to do.
Can you also like provide like a written narrative and to just explain, you know, this, you know, this is documentation he submitted, but just to, you know, explain what the application is, because usually I would think an application would be an actual application when they're just describing the work that they're going to be doing, what work has been done and what work they're going to be doing.
Yeah, I struggle to interpret this letter as an application.
Yeah, I do too, because it's not, it doesn't have the right address.
It just says, we certify it's in compliance with the current permit.
Yeah.
It doesn't say, on behalf of, you know, Luciani, I mean, it doesn't actually make any requests.
Okay, so let me go downstairs if you want to continue with something else or take a brief recess, and let me go into my emails to make sure that there's nothing older in there that may assuage that concern.
Sure. Is it easier for us to just take a brief recess?
Sure.
Just take a brief recess.
Yeah, we'll take
Sure.
a brief recess. Thanks. For the folks in the back, we'll just take a 5-minute recess. All right, welcome back. We're back after a brief recess, and members of the commission have been handed an email from June 20th, 2025, which I am going to read through from Luciani Properties, which is a request for a renewal of the special exception permit for 114 Luciani Street. And attached was a updated grading plan, which is the plans we've received, and a report by the surveyor certifying that the current state of the property and its operations are in compliance with the, I assume, former permit approved by the commission.
Okay.
So I guess all of these questions are better left for the applicant whenever the public hearing is, but I was under the misunderstanding that the whole time he had been hammering away and blasting on both lots.
Not blasting, but hammering away.
I think there was some blasting at the end too, but I could be wrong about that.
There was blasting at the end. I'm uncertain as
Oh.
to which properties.
Thank you.
it
I
was
stand
on.
corrected.
So again, we can ask the applicant what is left to be done on 114 and what that would involve.
Yeah.
So I think it's now a question of scheduling, though. I do note that before we went to recess, Kathy did raise a good question of what our standards are for receipt of special exception permit applications. Page 134, section 6.3 gives the long list. They do theoretically have to include a site plan application form. My guess is that
We don't have a form.
we don't have a form.
And plus, this is characterized as renewal of what
But it-
was previously
Yeah, it sounds
submitted.
right. It's not an extension, but it's a renewal. They're seeking for us to reissue the same permit that was issued for this property in the past.
Yeah. But they are supposed to have a narrative statement of what they're going to do, and then include a, generally it seems like a site plan or a map. Okay, that gets us back to scheduling and preferences for scheduling. That September 2nd meeting is going to be a very long one, and this too will likely have quite a few members of the public that want to participate in that proceeding. So do we want to have an August meeting?
I would favor meeting in August.
Yeah, so would I. Our normal August date would be the 4th,
That's right.
is that right?
That's right.
First Monday in August is the 4th.
That would guarantee the room would be available. right?
Do you, if you do schedule it for them, do you want me to convey to him that he needs to review 6.3 and make any adjustments to his submissions for what he's lacking from the 6.3?
Well, that's a question for other commission members. At a minimum, he needs to make sure the stuff he's
Well, he
submitting
needs
is
to correct
correct
a
and
bunch of
accurate.
stuff.
If he could supplement the application just to be in, be consistent with our regulations, that could be done prior to the August meeting, and I think that would be acceptable. It could be submitted by email.
And in particular, do we want him to focus on the narrative explanation of both what has transpired already on the property and what is left to do, and perhaps a timeline of said activity?
So I think that timeline is important, given our,
Our
his
history.
actions in the
Yeah.
past. And I think we need to hold him to a timeline.
Are we, do we have freedom or discretion to specify the period of time for which the permit is valid? Or they,
That's a discussion for you to have when you're deciding on it, but I can certainly,
We have a standard.
yeah.
The standard
The
for
regulations, I believe, say 1 year unless the commission prescribes a lesser amount.
right. Yeah, that's specifically what I'm interested in better understanding.
So anything else we'd like to include in the communication to the applicant? Do you need a vote or no?
Typically, you schedule a hearing with a vote.
Okay, so I move to schedule our hearing for a special meeting, which will be on Monday, August 4th at 6:30.
This room should be available, but I will verify that.
Little second.
Moved and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Hearing
And we
none.
do note that both
Both our alternates are seated.
seated and that Locke would have been up in rotation, but she's not here, so.
Okay. Alrighty. Anything else, Chris, you need on that?
No,
Great, so in our work session, plan of conservation and development, hopefully they're headed towards submission.
they are. They were sent off via email today to both the Board of Selectmen and to the Regional Planning Commission of the South Central Regional Planning Commission. So comments are due back to you by September 10th. So you're not going to have a hearing on September 10th because this was mentioned to you by Robert Collins. Once that time period closes, then those comments, whatever you receive back from the Board of Selectmen, from SCROG, and from the public, because this will also be posted on the town website, you'll then be free to make additional amendments before you schedule a hearing, and then you'll schedule a hearing. And that has to have the normal hearing notice, which now goes in the newspaper as it's always gone by state statute, but then it's also publicized or scheduled on the hearing, and its legal notice is part of the town website. So,
But they're heading,
they've gone out, the
They've
clock
gone
has
out.
started.
terrific.
So we've got a 65-day window for them to comment. And then, again, all of you should be looking at it just to see if there's anything else that we need to go in there.
Great.
I know a Board of Selectmen were saying that they also wanted to have a public hearing. Have they spoke to you about that at all?
They, to the best of my knowledge, they're gonna have a public hearing on it at their regular meeting in October. But that's nothing, obviously, that you need to attend. That's something where they're gathering comment and,
In October, but is that
No.
past?
no, I'm sorry, in August.
In August.
Okay,
Oh,
okay.
thank
Regular
you.
meeting in August.
Because it was October, it would
I've
be
got
past
too
when
many
we're.
dates, I'm
yeah.
sorry.
That makes
forming my-
sense. So that,
Yeah, so they would, they would have it before their comments are due to you, and then they would
Perfect.
incorporate that. The letter that I did send to them also quoted from state statute to let them know that if they don't comment, or they don't get their comments to you within 65 days, that you still can act on the POCD. Also, if they find that they don't recommend approval of the plan or portions of the plan, that you can still vote to approve that by a majority vote of the commission. So hopefully that information is clear to the members of the Board of Selectmen. I have been asked to be at the Board of Selectmen meeting on Wednesday, when they will be formally looking at it for the first time. And given the date of the August hearing that they would have, Rob Collins will also be at their hearing, not to defend it or anything, but to give basically a preamble to the process and whatnot.
But ultimately, it's our exclusive authority to give the final approval?
Yes, it's your plan,
great.
so. We still need pictures.
Yeah.
So, if you have any pictures, I mean, you can see where they're missing in the document. So if you think you have something good, send it along and I'll forward it. Or if you see a picture that really doesn't seem to work where it is, let me know that too, and we'll try to get that straightened out.
Great. Thank you, Chris. Andrew, I know you shared with us the agenda for SCROG. Any other updates?
No, because the meeting is not until Thursday of this week, so, but the agenda and materials would have been the extent of my report. More than my report, anyway.
Great. Thank you. Kathy, any updates on the Housing Committee?
I did want to mention that the Housing Committee did hold a community conversation on June 30th at the Center Cafe. It was facilitated by David Fink, who is a policy consultant for the SCROG. It was his last gig, actually, because he retired at the end of June. And I think it was a pretty good dialogue with folks. I think it cleared up a lot of misconceptions, and I would really encourage everybody to just watch it on YouTube. It is posted on the town's YouTube. And we're going to be continuing to hold these informational sessions, after the summer, if we are still able to continue on as I guess we're going to turn into a housing commission at some point, and not sure who's going to be on that, but to the extent that we're still on board, we are going to be planning other informational sessions.
Thank you, Kathy. Chris, anything as zoning enforcement officer?
No, I've been busy with enough other stuff.
You have been. Correspondence. We received a letter that you all should now have at your chairs from Pullman and Conley about another solar project at 16 Soundview Drive in Woodbridge, Connecticut. But this is just to let us know that they're heading to the siting council.
You're saying another solar is this the same property that has the cell tower on it?
I was not referring to that, I was referring to last month, we had a different
Yes.
solar project on Racebrook Road.
Oh,
Yeah, but this is the one with the cell towers in question.
So this did have the cell tower proposal that hasn't been built, and it's yet to be determined if this is approved, whether the tower would coexist with the solar farm, or whether it would just be the solar farm.
with respect to either potential structure, that is subject to the siting council's authority and not ours.
Correct.
Correct. All
Chris,
right.
on this correspondence received, you have, we'll be filing a petition for a exploratory ruling on or after June 9th, 2025. Is that supposed to be July 9th?
I leave something,
No,
that's
the letter
part
came
of-
in June
that's-
4th, so they were saying they were going to file with the
Oh,
siting
okay.
council by June
Yeah.
9th. The siting
So they-
council takes its time. They have their own statutory requirements of
They
when
do.
they need.
Gotcha,
they
okay.
take months.
They can, yes. All right, any other business? Other
Just
than-
minutes, if you
Minutes.
want to do any.
So we received the minutes from our regular meeting of May 5th, the special meeting of May 20th. I don't think we got June 2nd.
I haven't finished them.
Okay. So regular meeting May 5th, special meeting May 20th, special meeting June 9th, special meeting June 30th. I will move to approve all 4 of those sets of minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion, comments, edits on any of those batch of 4?
Yeah, I just have a couple corrections. The minutes of June 9th, you have Carol Lock, and that should be Sarah Lock.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And on the minutes of May 5th, which I know that was very long minutes that you did, on page 4, the middle of the page,
Hold
Where-
on one sec. She's up there.
Okay.
you got it?
Yep.
Where you have the chairman open the hearing to questions, comments by commission members. I just felt that an important comment that needed to be noted there was that there was advising to the applicant that undue concentration of population was removed by Public Act 21-29 from the General Statutes, the Zoning Enabling Act, and that couldn't be used as a legal basis for the application.
Can you
That-
send me that?
Yeah.
Yes, I can do that.
Yeah.
So if everybody's okay with
Any other-
inserting that?
Sure. Any other comments, edits on the minutes?
I think on May 5th, I had excused myself prior to the public hearing. I don't know if that's reflected.
It is.
Is it reflected?
I believe it is, yeah.
On this one, I know it wasn't another.
Oh, sorry, it was reflected on the 20th,
Yeah,
the May 20th.
It should be similarly reflected on May 5th then. I think I returned for the
Yeah, that's what I had
work
in there.
session after.
Okay, so, wait a minute, I'm in the wrong public hearing.
It is reflected in the May 20th minutes, yep. It says Commissioner Skolnick recused himself.
It's at the beginning in italics
Yeah,
on page 3. Commissioner Skolnick recused himself from this application, having previously recused himself from the public.
Oh, I see it now. Thank you. My
Thought I
apologies.
had it,
Yeah.
but they're so long.
Any other edits? So the typo, and Kathleen said to get some language to Chris. Any other comments?
Thank you for reading them.
Yeah.
It takes a while to read them.
yes, I'm
So-
sure, yeah.
Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? None. All right. I will move to adjourn because I gotta go play tennis.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor,
Who
say.
seconded? Oh.
Thank you.
Any discussion here? None. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same abstentions. Thank you all.
Enjoy
All right.
tennis. Sounds nice.